Welcome everyone to the Data Science Professional Career Track of PJFIS 2024. With the theme Chart the Future, Unlocking Opportunities for Tomorrow. We're thrilled to have you here as we dive deep into the world of finance and research. Again, if you're posting about today's session, don't forget to use our official hashtags. Hashtag PJFIS 2024, hashtag Chart the Future, and hashtag Unlocking Opportunities. Whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Let's share our insights and experiences with the wider community. Also, a quick reminder that the evaluation form is available on the CFA Society Philippines mobile app. Completing this form is an important step in earning your e-certificate, so make sure to fill it out. Let's get ready for an exciting day of learning and growth. I'm sure many of you are excited to learn more about what a career as a data science professional is really like. Well, you're in for a treat this afternoon. For our first breakout session, we'll be hosting a panel discussion featuring seasoned data science professionals who will share their experiences and insights and answer frequently asked questions about their roles and career paths. To kick things off and guide us through this insightful discussion, our moderator for this session is a market risk specialist at Citibank. Let's give a warm virtual welcome to Mr. Monzen Malyari, CFA.
Hi, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion on data science professionals. We are thrilled to have an incredible lineup of experts with us today who will share their experiences and insights, and all of them certainly have the passion to share that knowledge. Let's introduce them one by one. Our first panelist possesses over 5 years of advisory experience in the Philippines as a senior consultant in the data analytics industry with ZLift Solutions Incorporated. As a financial consultant, independently engaged with multilaterals such as the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank Group's International Finance Corporation, and formerly as an investment banking officer with the Development Bank of the Philippines. She currently leads ZLift's analytics team in delivering data science solutions to clients across different industries. Of course, she also has a Chartered Financial Analyst designation. She hails from Davao City, was a Department of Science and Technology scholar, and earned her applied math degree from the University of the Philippines in Mindanao. Let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Mary Grace Bacos, CFA. Moving on, our next panelist is a seasoned finance and technology professional with over 8 years of experience in capital markets, trading systems, and data science and engineering. He currently leads the data science and engineering team at Fitopolis International Corporation, where he oversees several trading data sources and collaborates with traders and researchers. A chartered financial analyst charter holder and a certified public accountant, he also holds multiple AWS, Azure, and other certifications in cloud computing and data engineering. He holds a degree in accountancy from Mariano Marcos State University and is an MBA candidate at De La Salle University. Let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Marlon Manzanades, CFA. And our last, but certainly not least panelist is the Assistant Vice President and Head of Data Analytics at MegaWorld Corporation. He is also the Chief Data and Tokenomics Officer and Board of Director at Likha Creatives Incorporated. His previous roles include Chief Analytics Officer at Advanced Tech Lending, Associate Director at Lichu Property Consultants, and Head of Research and Consulting at Cushman & Wakefield. He also has an executive diploma in real estate management and is a certified CREBA real estate professional, and also holds a certification from National University of Singapore. He holds teaching positions at University of Santo Tomas, Southfield Colleges, and De La Salle University, where he was recognized as most outstanding faculty. He graduated in economics from Ateneo, earned his Master of Science in Finance from the University of the Philippines, and is pursuing a Master of Science in Data Science Analytics at the University of the Philippines, BGC. Finally, as an active CFA charter holder, he is part of the engagement committee of the CFA Asia Research Exchange and served as the committee chair for industry relations at CFA Society Philippines in 2022 to 2023. Please welcome Mr. Francis Adrian Piernes, CFA. Yeah. So hopefully we could see the three panelists here on the screen, and we can start our discussion that way. I suppose let's start first of all. as an introduction to yourselves as well, specifically for data science. So can you share with us your particular journey in the data science career path? And in particular, how did you learn about data science as both a field of study and like a potential career opportunity as well? Perhaps we could start with Miss Mary Grace.
Everyone. Good afternoon to all. Sorry, can you hear me? Is this better?
You're 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 here. You're loud and clear.
Okay. My journey to data science started when an IT services owner I knew asked me about whether I knew anything about data science in 2013, I think, 2013-ish. And he asked me if I knew about the hype around data being the new oil. And I honestly answered no. I didn't know at the time. So after that conversation, I started reading up. And then his interest really piqued my own interest. So I started learning R, even though I was using primarily just Excel in my financial modeling. But when I learned R, gave me confidence to join a company, a boutique consulting firm in the Philippines doing data science, or what we call then analytics, right? So the rest is history.
Yeah, very interesting. The term data is the new oil is really something that became quite prominent in the mid 2010s. Uh, and certainly we're gonna see more of that later. So thank you for that, Mary Grace. Let's go to our perhaps our next panelist, Marlon. Perhaps can you share your own journey in data science? Where did you learn of it? And where are you in that career path now?
Yeah, sure. By the way, first, can you hear me, guys?
You're good. Yes.
Okay, sure. So as you can see from my background, I am a graduate of accounting. I'm not like other guys in the data science field who have a STEM background, like background in math or engineering. So I started my career in one of the big four auditing firms in the Philippines, in PwC, and then I moved into the private industry doing still accounting. So same with Miss Mary Grace earlier. I'm just uh, exposed with mostly spreadsheets, Excel. So I think my programming background really started when I was exposed to automating spreadsheets. So through Visual Basics for applications or VBA. And then I realized that you can only do so much with that language. So I kind of explored with other more full-blown programming languages. So I was introduced to R, Python, and JavaScript, but I doubled down more on Python. Luckily enough, that's the de facto programming language mostly, but this is debatable in the analytics industry. So I was easily able to translate that to other firms, and then one thing led to another. I was already doing data science more and more compared to accounting or corporate finance. So I think it all started with running into some problems and then just looking for a solution and how to solve it. So I think that's also one of the advice that we can give to young people here. Um, Look for solving problems, not just learning tools. Because mostly it's the other way around. They learn Python, they learn R, and then they don't know what to do with it. So yeah, you can start with that, and then learn the tools afterwards.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And you mentioned a lot of tools in your
Yeah.
journey as well. We're gonna get to that as well.
Okay.
And like a common theme that's appearing right now is Excel.
Yeah.
We're also gonna be getting with that later as well. So yeah, so thank you for that, Marlon. And last in our sort of introduction, Francis, how about your data science career? Where did it start and how's it going?
Okay, thank you for that. Actually, it's a very it's not as linear. Around the time that I started my data science, I was already I just finished my master's in finance and the CFA charter holder. I got the CFA charter holder rather. So that was 2018. Now, after that time, I think that when you get the CFA charter and become a charter holder, and of course, when you're done with your Master's in Science and Finance, you wanted, well, I was trying to look for some siguro career advancement. But the problem there is if I transfer to, let's say, a bank, kasi before I was working with a financial software company, FactSet, and in order for me to transfer to a local company, you must have experience. But so it was very difficult to, kasi even though, and this actually might be a good realization for those looking for that career path, no, experience is very important. So I cannot just get, let's say, a managerial role just because I studied a master's in finance, unless of course you are pursuing a research track, right? So because for the Philippines at least, it's very important that when you manage, you actually know the ground operations. So it's very, you know. So at that point, I wanted to shift careers, and that was also the time that AIM started promoting their masters in data science. And I think at that point, I think that that interested me because there wasn't much hype yet, although it was popular, but there weren't a lot offering it here, and so it was kind of new. And I know that if I took it, it would be a potential stepping stone to well, transfer, or well, maybe shift careers. And that was actually true in my scenario. But still, for people here who are studying the CFA curriculum, it's very important. One of my realizations, which later we will share, is that it's still very important for you to harness the insights from your main domain expertise, which is, for example, maybe finance or maybe real estate or something like that. Is because data science is well, it's good. It's more powerful if you combine it with other expertise.
Yeah, thank you for that, Francis. And actually, that's a good segue to our next topic because you mentioned you approach data science from the context of career advancement. And specifically when AIM introduced their Masters in Data Science, you saw that's a great opportunity. In terms of the students here who are obviously starting off from the ground floor, we're all college students, and they have the opportunity to start off like building their own skill sets. What do you think is like one or two skill sets that they wish to have? And in particular, the common question is, do they need to learn coding? And do they need to learn advanced math or statistics in order to get into data science?
Okay, so it, it's actually a very complex question. It's not as easy as it seems, but we will break it down for those, of course. For We'll make it so that it's a good advice for those starting out in their journey. Data science complements a lot of. They say that data science is domain agnostic, meaning you will apply it with whatever field you're currently on. Like for example, I heard you're, for example, Monson, you're from risk, no, and data science is so powerful when you apply it to risk, but it just doesn't produce that insight yet when you don't know, or you don't have any idea what you're trying to look for. So that's really the domain part. So but in terms of that maybe one or two skills, na, uh, just to be well, general about it, number one is problem solving. Okay, problem solving is actually very critical for data science in particular because whether you're writing a code or doing a no code option, for example, for some of our co-panelists who are using Excel, they really need to approach a problem because most of the time, for example, when you're venturing data science, this is a reality and a reality check na for our students here. Your bosses, your company won't tell you or won't give you na step one, do this, step two, do this, step three, do this. So point being is if you know how to approach a problem and solve it, that's why we have this programming logic. It's not about coding, it's all about how you structure a code. That's one. I guess number two for data for those wanting to jump into data science, coding is actually okay to to start with, but my problem there is it intimidates a lot of people. So that sometimes they don't want to go into it naman. But coding is actually going to help you when you're dealing with big data. So students here, no, just try it. For example, if you have 1 million rows, it's very difficult to manipulate that in Excel. Coding helps you that because of, well, it's open source. It's easier to manipulate bigger data sets even with R. So that really is just a tool for you to apply your analysis. But if you're not dealing with something like that, yes, even just the basic statistics, the advanced math, that can come later because not unless you're optimizing something, but going to the deeper part. But it's important, but you can learn that along the way. So it's really just to get you started to data science.
All right, that's very interesting, and I think those are very good tips. You mentioned as well, reiterated in fact, the importance of business knowledge, or the knowledge specific to your industry. And definitely, as for the college students here who are on the ground floor, they have lots of time to build the industry knowledge in particular. So I guess let's go to Marlon, and similar question, but in particular, when you mentioned a while ago that when you started in R, but then you moved to Python, as a particular, and you mentioned a particular reason. Can you mention, if there's a particular reason why one would be preferred over the other, and the common, another common, hesitation among students is gonna be like, if they try to learn one language, what if suddenly, like, 5 to 10 years from now, it's not relevant anymore? How are they supposed to handle that particular anxiety, I suppose?
Yep. So for your first question, choosing between two languages, choosing between quite similar tools is, as I mentioned earlier, is quite debatable. And the reason why I chose Python is it's more general language compared to R. You can use it to all kinds of things like web development, automation. Actually, not just data science, but it's well known because of data science currently. But I guess for the tools, I think it doesn't really matter. It really depends on the company where you're working on. It depends on what they're using. And also, regarding your question about looking into the future, I think also learning a lot of stuff under data science is quite overwhelming. So I think in the Philippines, we still use data science as an all-encompassing term, but actually under the hood, we can really classify the different roles under data science. I think for the entire data science life cycle, there's the data ingestion, data analysis, data cleaning, or that actually fall under the bucket of data engineering. And there's also the hardcore data science who does the modeling and all the other stuff. So we are more focused in our team in data engineering, and we have several stakeholders. Actually, I have my colleague here, Mickey. So she's one of the major stakeholders that we are um, really serving. So I think in terms of the skill set, I think what's being neglected nowadays is I think the data quality. So and it's not it's not very sexy if you hear it, but mostly especially in our industry, it's in finance. There's a lot of like data sets. You can go to different sources. They have different structures. And mostly when you're in college, right, you're learning data science. Most of the data sets that you are given are usually mostly clean. You can do modeling already right then and there. But usually in real practice, most of the time are really spent on getting the right data set and then cleaning it, making sure that it's really usable downstream. So another skill set that I think is very useful is learning really the domain that you're gonna be going in, because for example, in Mickey's team, they are not allowed to like I think beginner data scientists fall into this trap on what we call the hyperparameter tuning and stuff. Like they try different ranges of different hyperparameters, but they are not really sure what that model is doing. So they're kind of doing some data mining, which is not really good, if especially if you don't know anything about the domain. So I think what we can really suggest is to really learn the domain. But as Francis mentioned earlier, you can really learn those while you are already in the industry. So you just have to really watch out for it. Yep.
Right. A lot of it is specific to what's your eventual like probably first job or first two jobs, right? So, but at least for the college students here, learning the like base tools in terms of the analytics proper, I think is very good to start off with at least. Yeah. So thanks for that, Francis. Mary Grace, I guess on your side, I mean similar question, but in particular, your expertise seems to be, or at least your path seems to have led you towards like multinationals. There is ADB rollback experience. Anything specific to like their use case, which maybe like students can take as like, okay, what skill sets can we like take on at the beginning, in order to get to that kind of like career path?
Yeah, I can't really share very specific information about my projects, but just to share right now, I'm also um giving financial advisory as part of another international firm. It's Custody Advisors, which is based in Australia and New Zealand. So just a quick update to that. But the same, our clients are still multilateral companies, and the use cases are usually relate to projects that have real world outcomes. So I guess what it has in common with data science for these companies, it's really using data to drive decisions, to make smarter decisions. And even if it's just an Excel model, actually data science is tool agnostic, as what was mentioned earlier, right? So you can be using R, you can be using Python, as long as you're able to make an abstraction, a mathematical abstraction of the problem that something you can solve. You're able to express what are the constraints and what are the financial objectives of that problem. You should be able to develop a solution that's addressing all these problems. So you can use your Excel spreadsheets or your R script to help power cities, for instance, with clean energy, or develop more efficient transportation to boost local economies. So projects could vary from small to wide ranging for these companies, but I guess that's what they have in common with data. I would just like to add a point about the skills that are needed for this industry. I'd like to share something from a consulting perspective, which cuts across different industries now. So we don't know a lot about the client's industries actually. So you have to dig into the domain as what was mentioned earlier. And to be able to do this, the most crucial skill that you need is empathy. So I've always talked about this when sharing with different students, because empathy is the one that lets you connect with the people, wear their shoes, so that you can understand the people behind the data, and you are able to see the needs and challenges from their perspective. So for example, when we work with an energy company to build predictive models to guide their investment decisions, we really took the time to listen to different stakeholders, be it engineers, geologists, reservoir engineers, or decision makers. We needed to understand their concerns and the complexities they face. We actually had to understand all the intricacies of their processes. So this empathy, for instance, helped us frame the problem correctly, and of course help address their needs. So that's just an example of how you can what technical or soft skills you need to be able to navigate this industry.
Yeah, glad that you mentioned some of those soft skills like empathy, and we're definitely gonna get back to that. There's a very specific topic about that particular area. At this point, we did receive like a question from one of the audience, so we're gonna do a quick lightning round here. Data analytics bootcamps. We know that say Google has a data analytics bootcamp. I think Francis mentioned AM has a master's degree. What do you think of camps? Yay or nay? Maybe like a one sentence. Camps, yay or nay? who do we start with? Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Can everyone hear me?
Can
Yes, yes.
hear you.
Well, for me, it's just one word, no? Um,
All right.
so I don't know kasi sige, it's
Yes.
yay only because we want to start, but not all is yay. So not all of the boot camps are actually quite well. I think for starting, boot camps are great. So
Okay, got it. Mary Grace, boot camps, yay or nay?
It helps. Yay.
Interesting, interesting. Quite guarded answers here. Marlon, is it a similar answer?
Yeah, though I haven't tried it personally, but I think it's still recommended, I guess.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so we because we have a wealth of learning resources. Boot camps are one of them, and I think we can explore a lot more. Um, I think well, Mary Grace started it off, but addressing it as well to Marlon and Francis. Is there like a specific project that you're currently working on? Of course, you don't need to like be specific with the details that gets you excited in terms of data science. Let's start with you, Francis, because I see you nodding already. It seems like you have something in mind.
oh yeah, thank you. Well, for real estate, data science. Oh, by the way, thank you, Mary Grace. That was actually very important. The points that were raised earlier. But for real estate, we also have a lot of dropping a term here, guys, geospatial. So meaning it's more mostly related to real estate data where we're analyzing location. The basic unit of data that we have is the geocode, the longitude, the latitude, or something like that. So it's very interesting because you get to see networks being formed. And networks isn't really just something that's well, maybe found in data science, but it's also found in finance. You can probably see in networks of stocks being traded together or asset classes being traded together. Their correlations are very strong. So that's one. But we're also looking into potentially bringing an LLM into, let's say, some of our data sets. So maybe like asking a question instead of, um, well, doing the analysis yourself, just throw the question to your own localized chat GPT and it will give you the analysis or kind of like very straightforward for our executives.
And of course, by MLM, you mean machine learning model, correct?
Yes, but
Oh,
LLMs are mostly the ones that we're using are the transformers one, but
oh,
yeah, so like chat GPT, so large language model. I'm sorry,
oh, the
large.
LLMs. Okay, okay, okay. Got it, got it. Yeah, geocode, geospacing, those are already very interesting concepts on their own, and very exciting for sure. Marlon, on your side, any perhaps exciting projects on your sphere?
Not really anything specific project, but I think I can share on the what's really the trend because ever since data science started, you really have to do everything on your own. You're lucky if there are already like models that were coded by other people, but since then, I think a lot of years until now, it becomes easier to do data science already. There are like very powerful machines that you can get from the cloud, and also even big companies like AWS, Google, they already have like out of the box tools that you can really use very easily, including the like LLM models that you can just import into your code, those that were created by OpenAI. So again, we go back to what's really then becomes the important to learn. It's really learning about the domain and being again. We also go back to the soft skills like being empathetic to your users. So it's really not anymore of the tools and like the nitty gritty of the models. So again, you go back to being the domain as the important ones and like collaboration and stuff.
Yeah, those are definitely very important. Um, Any particular like sub project or topic that you're looking at right now?
Um, Actually, not really, because we're also in the not per se in the data science. We're more on the data engineering. So we're more involved in the data infrastructure. So again, usually big data processing, where you can, because in Excel you can just process around 1.3 million rows, right? So in finance we're dealing with big data. So you really need a lot of very big machines that are really just very available to you easily.
Yeah. Glad you mentioned data engineering because that's a related and a very important subfield as well. In terms of well, I suppose in short, it's getting data ready for data
Yeah.
science for sure. And I think the next topic we have would be very crucial with that. So I guess leading off to that, I'll start off with you, Mary Grace, because you mentioned several projects which are more, shall we say, like important on to the ground um to like several constituents because this leads us to one particular topic in terms of data science, which is ethics. It's a very big field, and I'll let you speak about like what your particular experience is. But in general, how would you say how would like students be able to start being like ethical data scientists or data professionals?
Okay, that's a very mindful question. I want to give you a mindful response that students can apply on their own. Um, so for students, you have to understand what's the usability, what are the limitations of your model, and who are the intended users. So you have to be able to express these properties or these limitations to your to the ones who are going to use your models. Otherwise, they'll be using your models without enough information to use them properly. So that's one thing to be ethical. So right now, because we're a data science firm, and I'm leading that practice, what we're trying to do is to align our practices with standards, international standards such as Singapore's, I think, AI governance, which have you heard about AI Verify? You can look that up. For students, I recommend looking that up to understand the very core principles about ethical AI practice. In fact, you can download their software toolkit that you can use to test your own models for robustness and transparency, replicability, explainability, and other metrics. So that's just one example that you can do. So for me, that's very exciting because people are starting to become aware about things, issues such as undesired bias. So we're becoming more conscious about using data and checking for imbalances that could cause models to give us responses that are biased against a particular group. So there's that.
Yeah, bias is a very big concept in terms of like data science. And it's something I suppose that would evolve given the models that we are bound to be using. Which leads me to like my question to you, Francis. Generally the same question, but you've mentioned LLMs. There are a lot of headlines when it comes to large language models in terms of both the source and also the use cases for LLMs. What have been like your challenges in terms of like using LLMs on an ethical standpoint? Or do you think, well, in a general sense, can LLMs be used ethically in your use case?
Well, let's answer the first question first. Well, since LLMs are, well, large language models, you train them over a large data set of text or similar data, um, then there is some possibility that there is those unrepresented areas or unrepresented, let's say, sections of the society that are not producing as much text as we would want them to be to achieve that fairness. In that particular case, LLM learns that. So, for example, you can try this if you, and just as an exercise, um, if you try to translate, for example, let's say Tagalog, in let's say guro siya. Yan, for example, guro siya or uh, something similar, guro siya, di ba? Yan. And then ask ChatGPT or another translator to translate it into English. And what that model would say is that she is a teacher. But why she? Right? Pwede namang guro can be male. Right? And pwede nyo rin sabihin, for example, engineer siya. Right? Try to translate that into English. You'll see that some of the models will translate that he is an engineer or something like that. So those, for a large model to learn, it would have had a lot of historical data, diba? To feed off of it. And in that particular case, those type of bias that has been encoded historically have also been learned by the model. So now, how do we, for example, use that? So of course, not unless we create a new LLM, which, by the way, is also not as ethical. You know why? Because it's not, when you create your own model, apart from what's already available outside, it also consumes a lot of data. So siguro for sustainability people here, no, since ESG is also a mega trend. Actually, before ESG is the big trend, and then after ChatGPT, everybody jumped into AI na. So na skip si ESG. But did you know that when you train the LLM models, I think for one, I think it was a source for the OpenAI part. To train one LLM model is equivalent to well, consuming energy that is equivalent to the lifetime of a median age car in the US. So parang lifetime niya. So ano yun, 10 years, 20 years, just by training that model. Kasi there's 175 billion parameter. Enough of the technical part, but that is one point. So ibig sabihin, you make use of what there is so that you don't have to train it and consume that much energy. That's one. But how do you make sure that it becomes less biased when you send the message? Of course, dito na yung person using the model or creating the internal model to fix that in terms of the communication. But so there's some adjustment that the person will do before we even communicate the results. So that's why I think the verification portion of the AI verify is actually very important. So those are limitations that we're still grappling with, not just as a company, but tayong lahat as a tech and the user of AI models. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for students, the most important thing at the moment is not awareness. Awareness of the limitations of these models that we're using, of the models that they are gonna learn, at least in the next few years of their journey. I think which leads perfectly to Marlon. I want in particular to see your thoughts in terms of the data engineering side, because bias have been mentioned a lot of times already. The other thing that's typically discussed is the sourcing. With these LLM models, there is a question of who is sourced, what these data, where did this data come from, and I guess in particular, has permission been actually gotten from these particular sources, as well as like privacy concerns. But in your case, Marlon, what do you think is like, how do you become an ethical data engineer? I suppose from your use case.
Yeah, you're right. So data engineering actually in some finance firms or actually in any kind of firm really presents unique ethical challenges due to the high stakes involved in the financial markets and also the use of advanced technologies for, if you're going to use it in trading strategies and also the handling of the highly sensitive information. So ethical considerations are particularly important when you deal with large volumes of market sensitive data, right? Especially private people information, and you're gonna feed that into an algorithmic model or any kind of LLM models. So it's really important, especially when you consider the source, right? So the data ownership and also the intellectual property comes into play. So we source a lot of third-party data. As I mentioned, I'm in a financial, we're supporting a financial trading company. So these kinds of firm often purchase data from third-party vendors to gain trading insights or what they call alpha. So we as data engineers must really ensure that the data is also ethically sourced from their end. and that proper licenses are also in place. So because using illegally obtained data or violating the terms um, of use, maybe for third-party data can really lead to not just legal, but as you mentioned, ethical breaches. And I think also even the intellectual property rights should be heavily considered because as you know, financial trading firms develop their own proprietary algorithms and also trading models. So we as engineers also must ensure that those intellectual property rights are respected in all aspects that they're being used and that no ethical violations regarding especially on open source software or data.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think in terms of using like big data sources or applications, unfortunately, the concept of like reading the contract is very important at this point. Knowing what the actual details are, knowing what you can actually use or what not use,
Yeah.
is important in this case.
That's right.
Well, we could actually extend this to like several more hours for sure, but unfortunately, we're probably down to our last question, and I'll leave it as like a final piece of advice that you can suggest to our students, like at their stage right now. What's the most, I guess, what's the biggest yield of activity that they can do? We'll start with Mary Grace and then move to Marlon and then Francis for your final thoughts. Mary Grace, what's your final word?
If you're not having fun, don't do it. Do it
Oh,
because
yes,
you love it.
correct. So remember to have fun while learning more about data science for sure. Yeah. Marla, what's your final word?
Yep. Of course, having fun is very important. And also in data science, there's not one skill that you really have to learn. You have to, it's basically connecting the dots. So starting while you're young, you can collect as many dots as you want, and then you can connect those dots down the road and really make a huge contribution to the field.
Right. Their biggest strength is really like starting young and collecting a lot of information. And Francis, what is your final word?
For me, especially right now that we are undergoing a lot of changes in terms of how functionalities and the companies our companies work. It's never too late for you to acquire as many skills as you have while you're starting, and to look beyond what is being, for example, taught in school. So, for example, conferences or seminars like this to enhance your awareness and knowledge are really a great way for you to continue being ahead of the curve. So, good
Yeah,
luck.
definitely. And on that note, let's continue the discussion in the chat. For our panelists, if you can drop like your favorite resources or like your favorite links, perhaps, as to what students can look at or to share or to enjoy. And let's continue that conversation there. But for this particular conversation, that is the final word. So thank you everyone for joining this particular panel. And let's proceed to the next panel or to the next discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mary Grace Bacchus, CFA, Mr. Francis Adrian Vernies, CFA, Mr. Marlon Manzanares, CFA, and Mr. Monzel Malayari, CFA. As our token of appreciation, we present to you the e-certificates. CFA Society Philippines presents this certificate of recognition to Ms. Mary Grace Bacchus, CFA, for her valuable contribution as panelist on the topic of data science professional track at the Philippine Junior Finance and Investment Summit 2024 with the Chart the Future, Unlocking Opportunities for Tomorrow, given this 27 September 2024. CFA Society Philippines presents this certificate of recognition to Mr. Marlon Manzanada, CFA, for his valuable contribution as panelist on the topic of data science professional track at the Philippine Junior Finance and Investment Summit 2024, Chart the Future, Unlocking Opportunities for Tomorrow, given this 27 September 2024. CFA Society Philippines presents this certificate of recognition to Mr. Francis Adrian Verniz, CFA, for his valuable contribution as panelist on the topic of data science professional track at the Philippine Junior Finance and Investment Summit 2024 with the theme Chart the Future, Unlocking Opportunities for Tomorrow, given this 27th September of 2024. CFA Society Philippines presents this certificate of recognition to Mr. Monzen Malyari, CFA, for his valuable contribution as moderator on the topic of data science professional track at the Philippine Junior Finance and Investment Summit 2024 with the theme Chart the Future, Unlocking Opportunities for Tomorrow, given this 27th September 2024. Okay, so everyone, let's have a quick photo opportunity to all our speakers. Can you kindly open your cameras? Okay, so on the count of three, one, two, and three. Okay, thank you so much again to our speakers and moderator. Okay, all right, we'll take a quick 5-minute break to stretch, grab some coffee, or just refresh before diving into the second and last session for the data science professional track. If you want to post about the PJFIS 2024, do not forget to use the hashtags hashtag PJFIS 2024, hashtag chart the future, and hashtag unlocking opportunities. Also, a quick reminder, the evaluation form is available in the Zoom plenary. Completing it is a part of a requirement to receive your e-certificate, so be sure to fill it out later. Welcome back, everyone. We've had an incredible day so far, and now we're down to the final session of the Data Science Professional Career Track. But don't worry, we're ending on a high note. Up next is a must attend session, Making Sense of Data, Best Practices in Analysis and Visualization. This session will provide you with essential techniques and tools to effectively analyze and visualize data, transforming raw information into valuable insights for strategic decision making. So, get ready for a powerful session packed with knowledge and strategies that you can apply in your own career. Our speaker is the Assistant Vice President, Chief Data Scientist Head for Data Analytics at Megaworld Corporation. Let's give a virtual round of applause for Mr. Francis Adrian Bernice, CFA.
Okay, so maybe I should start. So hi everyone, and welcome back to the Data Science Track Professional Session. My name is Nikki Zabalero, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. So following our insightful panel discussion earlier, we're about to dive deeper into one of the most critical aspects of data science, which is the art of telling a story using data. So our next session, which will be given by Francis, is titled Making Sense of Data, Best Practices in Analysis and Visualization. So in this session, we'll explore effective strategies and techniques to analyze and visualize data in ways that really clearly and compellingly can communicate our insights. So again, thank you all for joining us today. But again, sorry, before we dive into the discussion, I just want to go over some guidelines to ensure that we run this smoothly. So for questions, I encourage everyone to engage and participate. So please, if you have any questions throughout the talk, please post in the chat box. I'll keep track of all the questions, and then after, I'll call you one by one, or whoever posted the question, I'll call you so that you can so you can ask your questions directly. So again, thank you, and let's get started. Francis.
Okay, so welcome again, everyone. So hopefully you get to learn a lot with the my topic for today. It's actually the best data visualization practice, but we're going to use well, Netflix work, which is storytelling with data. Now, what I want to tell you why this is actually very important is, guys, being in finance, and this is very important, no? Soon, maybe for students here, you may be trying to, let's say, get into a field where you want to utilize a lot of data, or maybe just a normal job interview. No, your ability to communicate is actually very important. As finance people, and now you're venturing into data science, you tend to be a little bit too technical. And when people hear the word data scientists or portfolio managers, they tend to be, sometimes some of them tend to be a little bit, well, some of them will tend to be curious about what you do, but some of them would also be intimidated. Because, for example, they say, oh, that person might be talking a lot about data and we won't be able to understand what he or she's saying. So, key message here is that your ability to communicate is actually very important. Now, if you cannot, however, communicate, let's say, for example, if you have problem with communicating some of your findings, chances are it may be very difficult for you to, well, make your findings, be it a financial model or a data science model, it may be very difficult to have it deployed into the production, meaning people might not use it. So what's one tip for you to actually make it easy for your stakeholder, let's say your bosses, right, to understand what you are saying? it's actually to storytell with data. So the key concept here is about how you can use these concepts to package your findings in such a way that they're easily digestible and you get to communicate, right? Not just report. Okay, so let's start. Now, bad graphs and visualization are actually everywhere. And the reason for this is that we aren't naturally good with storytelling with data. Sure, we can storytell with once upon a time, all those fiction stuff. But when it comes to, and think about it, even in your current, let's say, course in college right now, you may already be using a lot of, let's say, data, but the use of the data, the processing of the data is oftentimes separate from how you actually report the data. Of course, we have some reporting and we may once in a while hear some tips, but it's not as integrated. So we can tell a story, we can tell a story about our friend, but storytelling with data is a different thing. We weren't naturally trained to do or will brought up to do that. Now, and this is I think what's important for you guys here listening in the panel. So in the past, siguro around 10 years or 15 years ago, I believe that when you look at the job descriptions, being good in Microsoft Office palang would be an advantage. But right now, everyone is already good with Microsoft Office, diba? It's no longer like a job description qualification. Now here, we're saying that you need to have a competitive advantage with learning how to store the data. So here, data visualization skills, of course, are not specific to any industry or role. So whether you're going to be a financial analyst or let's say portfolio manager, you're going to need this. Okay. So let me practice. Let me pique your interest. Okay. So tell me what insights are you getting here? So take a few moments to actually digest the data and the graph, and we will discuss how to actually improve this. What insights are you getting here? Or maybe the question that you want to know, look at the graph again. What action point do you want your stakeholder to act upon? Because maybe for some of you, you are financial analysts. You want to recommend buy stock, sell stock, right? Or hold. How do you do it with, for example, with this graph? What message are you getting? Okay. So see here 160, 160, 184, right? So this in itself is not actually very intuitive. So let's say the message that I want you to see is actually very difficult, and maybe you are also overwhelmed just by looking at the message because you're trying to analyze what particular insights you're trying to get. But okay, so pay attention on the screen now. I'm going to show you a better graph. If this is your graph, isn't it that the message is quite clear? So as you could see here, the graph has been improved to show the particular message. In this case, the message was there were two employees that quit in May, and therefore they kind of have a lot of backlog right now, meaning that companies right now, this company find it hard to close all the tickets because these two employees quit around May. You can see the gap here, right? This is the particular story that we want. It wasn't so evident here, right? 160, 160, ticket processed, ticket received. But after May, when the two employees quit, the lag or the jump became clearer. This is what we're trying to achieve when we want to communicate with data. We want to communicate with data. We want to make sure that our audience understand the message that we're trying to get across. So this is an example as well. Notice that if your particular feedback here is all about the, let's say, the success, for example, of a particular program, what you may want to do is to blur the other items so that the people trying to read your graph is focused on the darker hues. Okay, so that's actually what some of the tip. So here are the 6 key visualization principles that we might want to give to you guys. Okay, these are all very important, but we'll leverage some of the studies out there. These are all backed by several papers of studies, no? So hopefully we get to discuss a lot of them. Number 1 is to understand the context and then to choose an appropriate visual display. So we'll have that later. To eliminate the clutter, to focus the attention where you want it, to think a designer, and finally to tell a story. Now, for the context later, this is where we will begin, but in this particular case, all 6 of this should be present when you are designing your graph. Okay, so number 1, so the importance of context. Why is context important? There are some, let's say, stakeholders of yours who may want to get the nitty gritty. So in this particular example, a oyster exploring team went to the beach, right? And they opened 100 oysters just to find, let's say, 1 pearl, right? Now, choose your audience. Just pay attention to that story. A group of oyster searching or exploring team went to the beach and opened 100 oysters just to get 1 pearl. If your boss is kind of like the big picture guy, that boss would just probably want to hear, "Sir, we found only 1 pearl." Okay, that's the context there. Your boss may not need to know, "Sir, we wake up 4 a.m., we rode this van, and then we actually had 2 hours of traffic before we actually went to the beach, and we opened 100 oysters just to get 1 pearl." Depending on the context, sometimes to abstract or simplify your message, your boss who has very limited time may just need to hear this. But of course, if you are talking to, let's say, your professors, and this is why this is important, because maybe you're transitioning into from school to office, your professors want to know the nitty gritty because they're testing your critical thinking, for example, your thought process, and they want to check all of that. But bear in mind that when you're communicating in corporate, they just need to know this sometimes. Okay? All right. Now, the importance of context, principle number 1, it's very important for you to know who your audience is and, of course, your technical expertise. So, for example, I know for a fact that you guys are probably a lot of your students and may not have that specific background yet in data science. So, therefore, it's not going to be fruitful for me to discuss neural networks, deep learning. I'm just going to go and choose the aspects that would most likely be appealing to you guys. So in terms of the what as well, what does your audience need to know or do? Now, this might seem a little bit simple, but trust me, even professionals like me or a lot here in the corporate or even the higher positions, the VPs, they have not learned how to do this. Because again, this is not something that we get to learn in college and or easily in college, or at least for some of their educational background. Number 2, you are in control. Look at our particular position right now, guys. You are there in your screen, and I'm here controlling the slides. I have the choice of what I will make you see, and of course, you can ask questions about it, but at the end of it, I am in control. Again, when you're in corporate or when you're presenting your findings, maybe, for example, you like to be an equity research analyst, there are so many reasons to invest in a stock. There are so many reasons not to invest in a stock. But you are in control of the key points that you would show in order for you to convince your stakeholders. So please take note of that. You are in control. There's also a good communication or a good story revolving around data. I would also recommend to encourage discussion. I don't think you might hear this from some other data science professionals, no? But being in an executive position right now in data science, I'll tell you one thing. If your boss gets to ask a question on your data, you're already winning. Not all of your recommendations will actually be implemented. It's very difficult because what, for example, ma'am, I've created some study and based on this one, we should invest here, right? It's not all of it, maybe a certain percentage would not, or maybe a huge percentage of it may not be feasible at the moment. But if your boss gets to ask a question or clarify or engage in a discussion, discusses with you something, you're already winning. When you're preparing your data visualization, your minimum goal should be to engage, to have the people ask some questions, to get people to think critically, something like that. Okay? And of course, you could recommend, I recommend this. If it doesn't happen, but the person asks, you won. You suggest a next step, or for the next step, I think we should do this. If not, then let me know, or something like that. Okay? Of course, the mechanism, the tone are also within your control. Is it better to put it in email? Is it better to put it in video? Or are you talking to Gen Zs? Gen Zs probably would like a 10-second TikTok video for them to educate themselves, right? So all of these things are a part of understanding the context, even the tone. Okay. Now, in terms of the how, you have to ask what data is available to help make your point, and of course the mechanism, the spectrum of information. So for you guys, there's a new term I'm going to introduce. Look at this one. This is called the slide you meant. I think for all of you who are presenting your thesis right now, if you are here and you are doing a live presentation, the amount of control you have is high. Like for example, me, there will be some slides that I will choose not to show you. My amount of control is very high, but the level of detail needed has to be lower. I don't discuss to you the psychology of these things, etc., because you need to be engaged. However, if you are writing an email, the control of the level of detail needed for writing an email is very high, right? Because you might be misinterpreted and people can always review your email, right? They can spot, and of course it can be forwarded. The level of detail in an email is high. However, your amount of control is very low. Why? Because you don't know how your audience would react to that email. Are they gonna be offended? Is it sounding too bossy? Is my tone a little bit too authoritarian or something like that? Now, because we don't have time to prepare two documents, one for presenting and then one for email, there is here the new term that I want you to learn, the slide document. Your slide also becomes your document, right? So sometimes you pass that to your boss. Your slide is also what your boss will read. So that's the new term, slide document. Okay? Now, here, do not use your slides as a teleprompter. So for the context for principle number one, when you're doing your presentation, and by the way, guys, this is likewise a tip for you for interview. If you're doing your interview, please don't read your CV like a teleprompter. It will be a very painful experience for the one hiring you. They want to probably, because they probably have read it already, they want you to engage and of course tell you something that's not found there. So here's a few tips to write out either your speaking notes, so maybe for example you have some few speaking notes if you want. Practice what you want to say out loud to yourself so you know and you wouldn't doubt yourself because you've already heard yourself say it. And of course, give a mock presentation to a friend or colleague. It actually helps a lot, especially if you are not very comfortable with speaking. Okay, that's why sometimes maybe for some maybe not speaking, or not interviewing or not presenting. Are you more comfortable if you say you're just storytelling with data? Maybe that's something that you could also try. Of course, you have to consult with you for the context. So there are a lot of questions here, but I'll only focus on the one. So for example, after my presentation, what would a successful outcome look like? Guys, these are so important. Please take a screenshot of this one. These two questions are very, very important. So you will just like to ask, for example, after presenting this, what do you expect to achieve? Do you expect to change their mind? or do you expect to at least have people join you in this initiative? So ask yourself that, because that would also point your presentation, make it more focused. Now, here's also a very important tip. If you only had a limited amount of time or a single sentence to tell your audience, what do they need to know? What would you say? So, for example, and this likewise happens as well in corporate. So, sometimes you set a meeting with your boss, but your boss might be very busy. Like, for example, my boss, my direct manager is the president of Mega World. And because she might be too busy sometimes, I only have like 3 minutes to make my point. So sometimes I prepare a very long argument, because we guys are finance people, right? We all are very detailed in our arguments. We make all of these nice charts and financial models, and it's really nice. But sometimes, if I only have like 1 minute of her time, I reduce it to one sentence. You know what that is? Mom, please approve this. Something like that. So you ask yourself, if you are pressed for time, what is it that they need to take away? Okay? So let me repeat that because it's so important. If you're pressed for time, ask yourself, what is it that they need to take away from your presentation? Okay? So the idea behind this concept is that you're able the so what. So number one is the 3 minute story. So for example, if you only had 3 minutes, what would you want to say? And of course, the big idea. So what is your so what? Because you know what, if you're just coming off from college, the way we've been trained in college is that you prepare all of this evidence, details, and then the so what comes after, right? But sometimes in corporate, the way you would present that is not as clear, because you might lose them just when you're preparing the details. So ask yourself, what's the big idea, so that before I end this, I'm able to let you know what I want to say. Okay? So this is also a storyboarding concept. So for example, if you're trying to prepare, and for example, maybe as well in your interview, you're being interviewed in, let's say for example, by the way, here in Mega World, we're also hiring interns. If you are interested, like let me know. But let's say for example, you want to present your CV, right? So maybe you could put in post-its, and this is what I want to say. I want to highlight this. I want to highlight this. Now, if I don't get enough time, this is the most important thing for them to know. That I'm fun, I'm hardworking, etc., etc. Something like that. It's up to you. Okay? So, storyboarding is very powerful, so that you get to concretize your idea and then rearrange it. Now, don't start with the presentation software. Okay, we have a lot of students here, and I'll tell you, this probably happened to you already. Let's say, for example, I'm trying to do a graph. Okay, so I went into Excel or PowerPoint and does this really nice bar chart, so perfect. But you realize bar chart isn't the appropriate graph to use. What would you do? What would you do? Now, it's very easy for you guys to say, and then I'll just start and create a pie chart or a donut chart. But sadly, that isn't the case. You guys won't do that. You know why? Because you've spent a lot of time perfecting that bar chart. And in Tagalog here, sayang. So what you would do as an intelligent person, you would try to make it work. Right? You would try to fit that, even though it doesn't fit your story. You will try to fit that because I've spent 1 day doing this. So please do this first, plan it ahead. Now, I want to tell you a story about my friend. My friend tried to create this house in Tagaytay. And he's a go-getter, so he created this house, just one floor. No, just one floor because it's just a rest house anyway. But suddenly my friend had a kid, and then suddenly they want a 2-story house. You know what happened? And then they said, we want to build a 2-story house. But the architect now said, but sir, your house is designed for a 1-story house. The foundation cannot support a second floor. If you really want that, we'll have to destroy everything. Okay, that's the same thing when you are not planning and you go jump ahead into into creating your charts. And also, I'd like to invite some of these lessons are actually in my YouTube channel, no, in the data prof. But for example, that's also the same with coding. When you do some code, but you haven't really planned, you're gonna save that code because a lot of us here are doers. Oh, by the way, this is also true for your financial models. If you start doing your Excel and then you realize you're doing the wrong model, you might wanna make it fit because you've spent so much time. It's sayang. Okay, all right. Okay, no. Principle number 2, choose an effective visual. So please take a moment to look at this one and understand or maybe suggest how can we improve this. Remember, we're trying to show an effective or show effective visuals. Think about this graph that you have here and tell me how you would improve this. This is quite, for example, in your reports, in your stock presentation, you might actually have this. So, yeah. So, 41, well, percentage of children with married stay-at-home mothers. So, the point there is, as we progress, there are fewer stay-at-home mother, right? So, from 41%, around 1970, by 2012, only 20% are stay-at-home mothers, meaning most of our mothers right now are working, right? Because the income opportunity is actually, there's an opportunity cost to not working, right? But maybe, what better way to show this is this, right? Don't you agree? Don't you agree this is better? So 20% of children compared to 41% in 1970. So when I am now showing or giving my message to the bosses, which do you think would get the message across, this or this? This would certainly be more powerful for us to get that message, okay? Because they don't need to look at that graph, okay? So compared to 41%, and you see here the color palettes are also likewise blended so that it highlights what we need to see, okay? How about this one? So tables are great. Of course, tables, by the way, are only good if your audience is someone that would tend to pick up or look at the nitty-gritty. They would look at the nitty-gritty, give them this, but please don't use heavy borders. It abstracts the message. Use the minimal borders, or for example, if you think that there's a lot and it's possible for them to do this, maybe just do the light borders, okay? Heat map as well is a way to visualize data in tabular format, and so if you want to really highlight certain issues, right? So for example, they're looking for a table, but your message is of a particular, let's say, category or issue, then you can use this heat map. Now, scatter plot. For finance, you probably would have a lot of scatter plots, but scatter plots actually are very intimidating. Okay, so scatter plots are something that is normally associated with, it's purely quantitative because you have your quantitative variable and you have your quantitative variable. But we as financial analysts, we like to communicate in terms of the mean or the average value. So maybe one way for you to really just show this is to do something like this one. And as you could see, if the point of my message is which types of points are actually not performing better in terms of the average, these are the ones that are wasteful, then maybe you could gray that out and then the focus becomes here. So you could compare this and compare this. If your message is all about those who are very expensive and therefore we need to cut, then this brings the message across. Now, let's go into the finance portion of the line graph, right? So for line graphs, one thing for us to note here is that line graph is better for time series analysis. So if you have trends over time and most of our stock, and I'll show you that later as well with the demo, that's something that you would probably want to see. But in terms of us in doing our financial model, it's actually good to see the range. When you're doing your financial models, guys, when you're maybe predicting your stocks, maybe you have what you call a confidence interval. So that needs to be presented as well. Why? It's important for you to note now all data science, not just data science, all financial models, even all economic models are wrong. All models are wrong. But there are, of course, some that gets closer. So here, when you're predicting something, it really just make that my forecast is around this. That's why as well. That's also my advice to you guys when you're also being interviewed for, let's say, salaries. You all likewise give range. Right? You give range. You don't give one number. Financial values are better with range. Okay. Slope graph better for comparison with two periods. So for example, culture has increased or something like that. That's something that you could use. And bar graph. Now, sometimes for a lot of people, bar charts are avoided because they think that it's so common. Diba? It's so common. But in fact, that kind of thinking is actually why you should utilize it, especially if you have audiences that may not be too confident with what they or in reading graph. Why? Because if bar charts are so common, then the learning curve for your audience to learn that is smaller. And another reason is that for us, for humans, height is easier to understand. Okay, height is easier to understand. So because height is naturally easier to answer, we don't need to explain that this value is greater than this value. Just by looking at it, your brain automatically gets it. Okay. And okay, so just be wary of the axis. No, don't do this. Don't do this where you're cutting. So for example, here they cut it. So 35% and 39.6. So don't manipulate the axis, because think about it this way, guys. This 35%, if I double it, right, that would become 70%. But what happened here is that they cut it, right? They cut it to make it look like it's bigger than it is, but it's just 4%. Okay, this is not a good graph. This is an example of a bad graph. Data scientists would really laugh at this one. When you're starting with the bar graph, make sure you start with axis 0. Okay? Choose a bar width that is just right, of course, for your particular use case. And if you're comparing a stacked bar chart, this is easy. For example, for the one that has a natural base, this is a lot harder. So you only use this to compare if the first category, the blue category, is what you're after. Okay? What else? Okay. So, sir, horizontal bar chart, vertical bar chart. When do we use them? For the vertical bar chart, for this one, this is naturally used when your particular axis label here, the x-axis, has a natural order. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, January, February, March, April. These are natural order. Or maybe here, you have here kindergarten, grade school, high school, etc. So if you have a natural order, do the vertical bar chart. But if you don't have a natural order, go with the horizontal bar chart. So for example here, data science, let's say computer science, etc. So these categories don't have natural order. Horizontal bar chart is better. So like this one. If the categories have a natural order, use the vertical one. But if not, use the horizontal. Because that's the nature of how we read the data. Okay? Now, when you're likewise presenting a bar chart or horizontal bar chart, it must have a particular order. The natural order or the ascending and decreasing. So it cannot be just, that's how I wanted to have it arranged. So for example, for this one, notice that this is arranged according to descending order. From greatest to least, there must be an order. We're finance people, we're logical. Right? Hindi pwedeng ito nandito sa taas. What order is that? Some of them would look alphabetical. But guys, for finance, it's always better if the value is in descending order, meaning greatest to least. Okay? Now, in terms of pie charts, please avoid 3D and avoid pie charts. With better use donut chart. So I'll show you this. Guys, which supplier has the largest share? Look at that. Which supplier has the largest share? take a few moments to check, is it supplier A, supplier B, supplier C, or supplier D? Which supplier has the greatest market share? So, if you look at that, if you answer that it's B, you're wrong. It's supplier A. And the reason why this is that it's the angle of the pie chart isn't easily calculable. It's not intuitive. It's not easily clear for people, especially for this type of presentation. Also, if you have a 3D chart, the third dimension becomes an axis that is being processed by the brain, which is not needed. Okay, so guys, avoid 3D charts. Okay, at least when you're storytelling with data, again, you're going for people to understand you, right? Not to be, wow, that's a nice chart with you, but you're going for communication. And for this one, it abstracts your message, right? You thought it was this, but it's actually this. Same with secondary access. Please avoid secondary access. It's better to just maybe label this one. Look at the chart here, because your audience won't find it hard. Which one am I going to look at? Is this one or is it this one? This one or this one? It's so messy. But if you just directly label it here, then they will just look at this one, and then the revenue is actually very clear. So the axis is collapsed. So you remove this and you labeled it directly. Okay? Or pull apart vertically. Just maybe your concern is you wanted to show that they are correlated. Then maybe you can just pull them apart vertically. Okay? Alright, so I think, not entirely sure if this is my last, but yeah, we can make this the last part. Okay? So principle number 3 is to declutter. Guys, whenever I'm showing you a chart, your brain is already processing it. And when your brain is processing it, that's what we call cognitive or mental load. It's the amount of mental processes that you need in order for you to make sense of the graph, right? If I show you a number, our brain is running. Now, if you want to communicate your message and your message is so important, you want to make sure that the mental load in looking at that image or that chart is low. You want it to be low so that when they see that, they instantly get what you want to see. So for example, for this one, when you have a lot of colors and it's in 3D and it's so colorful, even the background, just look at this one. You in the audience right now, look at this one. Don't you feel tired or your eyes feel tired just by looking at this? Because there's so much elements to look at. Right? You have to notice the color, you have to notice the height. All of it is taking some mental load. But if you declutter and make it, for example, gray, that's why guys, the blind people for the grayscale is actually helpful, because gray is easy for our brains to process. So we have this the gray part. If your only point is to show which ones have the highest franchise for the Japanese let's say exports or Japanese products, it's Hello Kitty and Pokemon, right? So it's easier to see that just by one look at it, and then I just it's Pokemon, Hello Kitty. That's what my takeaway is, right? So but here it was very difficult. And what's the color, right? So this is processing it just by looking at it. Actually, I feel tired. Okay, and the key here is the signal to noise ratio. How much of the or sometimes the ink, the data to ink ratio, how much of your ink is actually printed on data and how much is for design? If the ratio is off, or it's mostly for non-data part, then it's something that it's not working. And yeah, so just Gestalt principles of visual perception, just for you to see that. So for example, proximity, you can use that. So for example, here, you could give them, proximity is something that is used by Gestalt in terms of grouping things together. So if you want, so for example here, are you seeing columns? Are you seeing rows? You're seeing that illusion because of how it's structured. So if you want to manipulate that, you would group them together, proximity. Similarity as well. So if you want to show that two objects are similar, you could use these elements: color, shape, size, and orientation. For enclosure as well, for example, for this one, by the way, you'll see that later in my. I'll show you an actual example. You'll see that you'll have this one. The enclosure will tell you that this is actual and this is just a forecast. The enclosure, and also the way I'm presenting this to the corporate, the enclosure helps our executives process it. Okay, and closure as well. So here, continuity, then connection. Of course, if you want to make sense of this one, you could connect them. And yeah, so basically, I think that's just what we have here. Maybe for this one, we want to focus for principle 4. We really just want to focus your audience attention. So you'll do that by making sure that what you want stands out and what you don't want is less of a standout. So guys, could you count the number of trees here? Please count the number of trees. So if it's difficult, don't you think it's a lot easier if you do this, right? So this is an example of focusing your audience attention. So when you get to work and you have a really important finding, and you want, sometimes your executive, you might not even get a chance to explain, and it's really just in your visuals or in your presentation. You have to make sure that your findings stand out. Okay, so I guess that's all about this one, but I'll open the floor now to question. But maybe I can present to you first some of the example of the graph that you can have here. So, okay, so if you could see this one, this is the site that I've created. So I have here crypto and stock predictions. So we go and even here the portfolio analytics. So it's thedataprof.com. You'll see here an example of those graphs that I mentioned to you and how we're using those principles. So for example here, because the particular stocks don't have natural order, we use the horizontal chart. And for this one, I don't use the pie chart, I use the donut chart because you can use this one. I don't use the legend, but you have here, so something like this one. And in terms of the enclosure that I was talking to you about, so you can predict it here in the stock predictions. Okay, so by the way, this is an example of a data science model being incorporated here. So for example, I'm trying to predict certain stocks, and let's say for example, you want 8990. Okay, so here, there is an enclosure here that this is the actual, but this is the forecast. You see, I also guide them that this is the average price forecast. So I think this is the next 20 days, right? So let's say, for example, those are not, here, for example. So here, the forecast period will be 20 days after this one. Okay, and so that's about it. So I open the floor to some questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Francis Adrian Vernies, CFA, for that very insightful session. Now, to moderate the Q&A portion, may we call on Ms. Ana Maria Micaela Zaballera, CFA, a quantitative researcher at Fitopolis International Corporation. The floor is yours, Ms. Zaballera.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Francis, for that very insightful presentation. So now we'd like to open the floor to some questions from our audience. So if you have any questions, please do post it, or if you're shy to ask them directly, you can just post them in the chat. But maybe to lead the question, so I have one question for you, Francis. So as students prepare to enter the data science roles in finance, so which data visualization tools and software should they prioritize to learn to meet the industry demands?
Okay, so it's actually important for you guys if you want Python is also okay because it's open source, meaning you can just download it for free. But what I'm really seeing, even for international guys, is and I won't tell you what the salary is, what I'm seeing, but kind of look at it. For example, Power BI, Tableau. if you become an expert, and Tableau is or Power BI is something that you can download for free and you can practice on it. So I'm just really very excited that a lot of the demand there is actually for people who knows how to use it. It's actually very intuitive because also part of Microsoft. So if you have a takeaway here, like my point is about storytelling, learn Power BI, learn Tableau, and then if you have some time, Python. Oh, by the way, I likewise have that. If just to let you know, if you wanna also learn that, I have it here in my tutorial channel. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Does anyone have any other questions?
For those of you who want to become intern,
Yeah.
yeah. So you don't have, yeah.
Are there any more questions? Okay, I have another question. So what are some of the challenges that you've encountered when trying to use like data visualization
Okay.
to influence the decision making in finance?
Okay, so sometimes when you visualize your data, sometimes the story is not there. So that's one. That's one key challenge. Or the story is something that they are already familiar with. Like for example, ma'am, our best days for selling is Friday. So sometimes it's for data science, they expect us to always be exciting, to always be groundbreaking, or have this never before heard insights. But you know what, guys, a lot of the insights that you will actually see, don't be surprised if you already know them. That's because, of course, our data follows the natural logic of uh, well, of things. So in that particular case, that's one challenge I've encountered. Using, however, the tools is actually quite easy. That's why, guys, tools, that's not what's gonna set you apart. It's your ability to spot the story in that data, because anybody can just learn the tool. So for example, I have this data, I give this to my team of data scientists. They'll just create some charts. But sometimes the story isn't as easy. And you guys who have a lot of free time, you're probably just gonna learn it by yourself, and you're gonna do a great job because you're young, you have a lot of time right now. So it's not gonna be what will make you super competitive. It's really about seeing the big picture, getting the trends, or even plotting the particular aspects of data in such a way that you make a compelling message.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? So I guess there's none anymore.
What?
So if you have any like Sparting messages for everyone about this topic.
Yeah, please. The importance of data communication cannot be understated. Regardless of what field you are in or what career you wanted to be in the future, this will directly impact the way not just your career will go, but maybe for some of you, the way you would impact the world. So I urge you to learn this communication on top of your technical skills. It's gonna be what is not easily well learnable by chat gpt. It's going to be something that will make you even more valuable. That's it.
Right, thank you. So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining this session. Charles.
Thank you so much, Mr. Francis Adrian Bernie, CFA, and Ms. Ana Maria Micaela Zaballera, CFA. So as our token of appreciation, we present to you your A certificates. CFA Society Philippines presents this certificate of recognition to Mr. Francis Adrian Vernies, CFA, for his valuable contribution as speaker on the topic of making sense of data, best practices and analysis and visualization at the Philippine Junior Finance and Investment Summit 2024 with the theme Chart the Future, Unlocking Opportunities for Tomorrow, given this 27th September of 2024.
Thank you, thank you.
CFA Society Philippines presents this certificate of recognition to Ms. Ana Maria Micaela Zaballaro, CFA, for her valuable contribution as moderator on the topic of making sense of data, best practices and analysis and visualization at the Philippine Junior Finance and Investment Summit 2024 with the theme Chart the Future Unlocking Opportunities for Tomorrow, given this 27th September of 2024. Again, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much to our speaker and moderator. Can we have a quick photo opportunity? So um, can you kindly turn on your cameras? Okay. I count of three. One, two, and three. Okay. Again, thank you so much to our speakers and moderator.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, and that's a wrap for the data science professional career track. I hope you're all feeling inspired and excited about this career path. It's definitely full of incredible opportunities. Now we're going to take a quick 10-minute break to recharge. Use this time to grab a snack, stretch, and reflect on all the insights you've gained today. After the break, we'll be heading back to the plenary session for more engaging content you don't want to miss. We have two more fantastic sessions this afternoon. Reading the markets, must-watch indicators, and LinkedIn, Rock Your Profile. Both are designed to provide you with valuable insights and tools to elevate your career. So don't go too far. You can now leave this meeting room and re-enter the main webinar. If you're looking for the link, it's the same one sent to your email. Enjoy your break, and we'll see you back in a few minutes. Goodbye and thank you.